Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever happens to be while you're watching. So, yep, sitting in my truck, next day, next lunch break, and have kind of a thought. So, I said yesterday in a video that there is no official mandate, whether it be by executive order, whether it be by legislation, bill, statute, that requires companies to enforce the vaccine mandate if they have more than 100 employees. There is nothing official, nothing legally official that's requiring these businesses to do such. OSHA still has not updated their standards per what Joe Biden said he was going to do to use them as a regulatory force to enforce the vaccine mandate. But we still have all these companies enforcing it voluntarily. I'm sure there's a lot of, I'm not a business owner, so I can't speak to that side of it, but I'm sure there's a lot of underhanded backdoor coercion going on, but I'll digress from that. But I said it a while ago, and I've talked about it with a few people, that I think the Biden administration said what they said and didn't push legislation on purpose. The reason why, in my book, that they have not pushed the legislation, whether it be by executive order, statute, whatever, is because the moment they do so, they would have to fend off all the lawsuits. All the companies, all the employees, it would be companies suing them, employees or individual people suing them, etc. Labor organizations, labor unions, etc., etc., etc. They'd have 1 million lawsuits to fight off, and they know this. So they're using whatever form of coercion they're using to force the businesses into doing it. So now the employers are the ones having to fend off the lawsuits. It takes money, and it costs money. It costs a lot of money. So an employer that forces a vaccine mandate on its employees and then has a subsequent lawsuit filed now has to fight it in court. That costs money. So I think there's two things that's happening. The employers are kind of in a no-win situation. If they don't enforce the mandate, they now have to face the federal government. If they enforce the mandate, they now have to face the lawsuits of labor unions and employees, etc. So it's a no-win for them. But why not, as an employer, where you don't, let's just say as an employer, owner of a company, a board of directors, whatever you are, disagree with the mandate, enforce the mandate. And somehow encourage lawsuits against your company. So you go to court and fight it and lose, and allow the court to say it's illegal, unconstitutional, whatever. Now you have that as a backing to go back to the federal government and said, hey, court said I can't do it. And now the government has to fight its own self, i.e. the court system, to try to overrule it or overturn it, etc. Let the federal government bog themselves down with infighting. So as an employer, if you don't agree with the mandate, enforce it, encourage lawsuits, take the L on the lawsuit. Now you're covered as an employer. Now you have an official federal document or a court ruling that says you cannot enforce this mandate. Then you just turn right back around and go to the federal government and go, you deal with this. I can't enforce it. Court said I can't enforce it. Why not do that? And I also think that there are employers that have contracts with the federal government, and because of Joe's edicts, anybody that has a contract with the federal government, blah, 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 you have to be 100% vaccinated. So take a company like Delta. 2% of Delta's income is via federal contracts for flights. Tell the federal government to pack sand. That's 2% of your business. Or do the same thing. Enforce it. Let it go to court. Fight it to the point where you're legally obligated to fight it, and take the L. You keep your employees, you keep your business, and you now have a federal document protecting you from the federal government coming down on you for not enforcing a mandate. You're protected, and you keep your employees. Because think about all the employees you now have to get rid of as an employer. You have to replace them, or you have to reduce your amount of business because you don't have the employees to facilitate it. And this is across the board for employers. Think about the loss of people, talented people, experienced people, trained people you now have to replace, which means you have to hire, hopefully, maybe find some experienced people. You have a lot of people not wanting to go back to work now because of everything. Your employee gene pool is getting kind of small. If you get to keep your employees and you have a federal document protecting you from liability from the federal government, saying you can't enforce it because it's illegal, unconstitutional, whatever, you're covered. And then we have the group of employers that are sucking up, kissing ass, whatever you want to call it, to the federal government, trying to gain favor with the federal government, because they're whatever their mindset is, that they're all on board with this vaccine mandate thing. Let them rot. So keep it in mind, the federal government is putting them in a position to where they have to enforce the mandate and they have to fight off all the court cases. There's thousands of court cases across the country that are coming daily to fight the vaccine mandate. Employers, you're the ones who have to pay the legal fees of your attorneys to fight this shit. The federal government has forced you to do this. They have forced you, or trying to force you, to enforce a mandate that's not even officially legal. You have to fend off all the lawsuits, pay for all the attorney's fees, legal fees, etc. And then if you lose, you now have to pay whatever the restitution is, whether it's retirements, whether it's lost wages. You're going to lose employees and pay them if you lose, and the federal government's not out a dime. It's all on you. Look at what the situation the federal government has put you as an employer in. Use it against them. Just say, hey, okay, we're enforcing the mandate. If you want to sue, here's who you need to contact. And tell your contact, your attorneys, you're taking an L. With a stipulation with your employees that if the ruling comes through, that don't terminate your employees. Let them fight. Stipulation is, okay, if the judge rules this is unconstitutional, you have your job. Most of your employees will be willing to come back to work if you're honest and open and truthful with them. Let the government fight itself. Let the government, make the government do what they're supposed to do. If they're going to try to make this a mandate, either pass an executive order or pass legislation and let it become a bill, let it become a federal statute. Because right now, as employers, your ass is hanging in the wind. The whole bill comes down on you from both sides, like I said earlier. You don't enforce it, the government comes after you. You enforce it, you're going to have labor unions and lawsuits coming at you. You're fucked. Take the L. Force it back to the federal government. If a court rules that the mandate in your company, for whatever reason, is unconstitutional, illegal, whatever rule it violates, you're now protected from having to enforce it. Use the system. Don't let the system use you. Have a great day.